just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that I'd just drop by and let you know that I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll cause you no more sorrow. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. I brought the money like the lawyer said to do. It won't replace all the heartaches I've caused you. It won't take the place of loving you, I know. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning and welcome back to the channel Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. The weather has been pretty awesome. Warmer than it had been for a number of months before. I think it got up to 80 the other day. It's been in the high 70s. As you know, month after month, we were in the low 70s. So it's still pretty spectacular, but it can get a little warm when the sun's out. You know, it's pretty piercing down here near the equator. So if you're down here, cuidado. Okay, first of all, I want to thank Yuka, of course. Always there before I start. I really appreciate it. But maybe it's becoming a trend because we also had shows up as Gabriel, but I looked up and I could find Marie. I don't recognize your name, so I assume you're new. Or you're, you know, what they call a lurker. I really appreciate you being here. And Gerald, or AKA Jerry, apparently. How you doing? I want to thank you. And let's see, we got Coleman, first comment. Usually that's Rob's spot. And of course, yet another place. And no, folks, he doesn't make these things up. He's constantly getting run out of whatever town he's in. Yeah, it says I got sound. Okay. Ben Lake, AKA another name. I'm finally here. Invaluable assistance. Thanks. Thank you. Got here last week. Dennis, how you doing, Dennis? Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, one of these days that'll say something different. Probably Medellin. He seems to be hooked on Medellin. And Juka, of course, how you doing? John from Armenia. What are you doing in Armenia? Gabriel, happy Sunday. Howdy. Libby, how you doing, Libby? How are you doing in Ecuador? Better you than me. Judy, good morning. How you doing, Judy? Luz, good morning. Good morning. And she was our surprise guest last week. Not surprise to me, but surprise to you. And she is the medical interpreter. She's working full time, I think 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. But if you're here and you need a medical interpreter, can get that set up for you. Mike, how you doing, Mike? Robert from Cali. Sorry, I don't mean to. Well, yeah, I do mean to laugh. Cali, come on. Is that the best you could do? Don, good morning. How you doing, Don? I live here. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm humoring myself. Yeah, I got weird, stupid humor. So, all right. What else did I want to talk about? Um, 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 Wolfgang. Hello from Barranquilla. Howdy. Uh, oh, watched Buffalo Bills yesterday afternoon. It was pretty cool. Nothing like distraction from the meltdown the United States seems to be having. Thankfully, I'm enjoying being here. But they rallied from far behind, which was pretty awesome to see. They had an 82-yard punt. This is some guy they drafted like at the very end of the draft, and they call him the punt god. The Bills don't. He was called that during the draft. But apparently he can punt the football from one end of the field to the other. And they played almost entirely their third stringers through this game. No first stringers started. So that's pretty cool. I know most of you could care less, but it's pretty cool for me. Now, I want to talk about, and this is Rob's idea. I want to thank him. I thought a lot about it. There's quite a few of you that are living somewhere here in Colombia or Ecuador. And I want to ask you to do something, please. It only needs to be about one page. Don't make it 3 or 4 pages because that really won't work out. But one full page or maybe a couple big paragraphs. I think it would be interesting to start telling stories about people that are here. Now, a lot of people don't want to be on camera. Logistically, it can be a pain in the butt. But Rob's idea, which I thought was good, was if you write these things down, you send them in an email to me, then I can just read them. I'll just read these stories. And it's not really complicated. It's like why you're down here, where are you, and what conclusions do you have, or what advice do you have? Are you sorry? Are you completely into it? Are you still on the fence? Just kind of your opinion. I think it would be really helpful for other people to hear those stories. So I don't know. We'll see. A lot of times people, I just don't want to, it's too much. It's homework. I'm busy. But, maybe we'll give it a shot. So there's my email. One page or a couple big paragraphs. It shouldn't be, too hard. And I'm going to ask you, please do it. And then I'll try to give it justice. Or maybe I'll find somebody with a good reading voice. I don't know. And, I can't stand my voice. I can't stand to see myself on video. I've hated it. Through my life, I have almost no photographs of my life because I've always hated it. And here I am going on, 6 years. I think we passed the 6-year mark of doing videos. Go figure. Okay, so let's see what else we have. Today, I want to talk about Manizales. Colombia is like everywhere you go. You're going to find places that you love. You're going to find places that suck, and all points in between. And when I talk about Colombia, I love where I am, as you well know. And I probably talk maybe too much for people that are interested in, maybe something different than me. And I speak well of Manizales, but today I want to kind of give it some justice. I don't speak very well of Pereira because I personally don't care for it, but I've said many times there's some pretty nice things about it. But if there's many places in Colombia I would not want to live. Most of Colombia, I'm not crazy about it. San Andreas is awesome, but that's, kind of like an island resort. the three places are basically Manizales, Armenia, of course, and Bucaramanga. Other places, they really hold no interest. Medellin, it's a great city. I mean, I'll give it that. But the pollution, the crowds, it's just the hustle and bustle. I mean, I just don't like, big cities at all. So today I want to talk about Manizales. And first I'll mention, I don't know why people argue with me about temperatures when you haven't lived here or there or another place. And that happens all the time. It's crazy. But I'll tell you, driving from Armenia to Pereira, to Manizales, back to Pereira, and back to Armenia, let me tell you what happened. Left Armenia, it's cool. Get to Pereira, it's warm. Get to Manizales, it's cool. Leave Manizales, get to Pereira, it's hot. Half an hour later, driving into Armenia, it's cool again. This is what I tell you guys all the time, that I don't care what you see on the internet. I could care less. It's bogus. Armenia is not the same or hotter than Pereira. And I'm constantly told that by people that really don't know. And I know. I lived in Pereira. I've lived here now going on 4 years. I've been to Pereira a million times. It's always hotter, and there's a reason for it. The way that it's built, the microclimate that it has. So you can, read the internet all you want, or maybe you even visit and you hit 1 or 2 days where, it's not the case. But I'm talking 95% of the time, Armenia is going to be cooler in the north of Armenia, because that's my Armenia. And Pereira is going to be hotter. And Manizales is not cold as compared to Armenia. Now, people that live here will always, if you ask an Armenian about Manizales, the first thing they'll say is it's cold. And it's usually the same or within a degree or two of what it is in Armenia at that particular moment. I think the widest spread I ever really see is maybe 4 degrees or 2 Celsius. It's not a big spread. Yes, it's several thousand feet higher, but again, things go to microclimates, and that has a huge effect on what things are. Now, the biggest difference in weather between Armenia and Manizales, and one of the reasons I didn't want to stay there, because I lived there for a while, is in Armenia, the rain most of the time has a similar pattern where you wake up and the ground's wet, but the sun comes out, it's nice, and into the afternoon it's nice, and then you get the rain in the afternoon and or evening. That's typically what it is. Now, you get your exceptions, and sometimes you get an unusual weather pattern like La Nina, kind of affected it. But generally that's the case. So the nice thing is, if you're planning to go out and do things, if you do it in the morning, chances are you're just going to hit nice weather. In Manizales, up on top of that mountain, you get weather from every direction. You're affected all over the place. And it rains whenever it feels like it. You can go out, it'll be 80 degrees and just a beautiful day. And next thing you know, you're in this raging downpour that there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Where did it come from? And that'll go on 2-3 hours. Here it rains. It usually goes on for a very short period of time and clears up. It seemed like the months that I was living there, it just seemed like it was constantly raining. Now, it wasn't. There's some beautiful days there, but it seemed like it because it would hit you whenever. And And it was disconcerting because, I mean, how do you plan to do anything? Well, you just have to plan on doing it in the rain. And the downpours there. Man, I mean, in the 4 years I've been back here living in Armenia, I think downpours, really strong downpours, maybe have happened 3 or 4 times, maybe one a year. In Manizales, when I'm talking downpour, I'm talking like out in the west cloudburst kind. You know, you can't see 10 feet in front of you and the rain is pounding down so hard it hurts. Or maybe it's going sideways, you know, it's like really hard rain. That's a pretty common occurrence in Manizales. So, you know, it's those are the downsides. And the other thing that keeps me from living there is the people are very nice. And this is something misunderstood. People misunderstand what I say. Maybe it's the way I say it. And I'll say that, you know, the people in Armenia are exceptionally nice. They're known throughout Colombia as being exceptionally nice people. The slogan of Armenia is amable, friendly. So it's at a very high degree that no other place you go is going to be, in general, the same. You'll meet people like that, but in general. And the thing in Manizales is, these are the negative things. And there's only really 2 for me. The thing in Manizales is the people are more formal there. And that formality keeps a certain distance. Where in Armenia, there isn't a whole lot of formality. And it's just so easy to meet people. And people will, you know, bring you into their circle. It's just a common thing here. It doesn't surprise me at all anymore. Taxis letting people, you know, they'll stop traffic and let people cross the crosswalk. You just have that kind of atmosphere. And in Manizales, it's more of a clique. You know, if you're born and raised in Manizales, you're part of the club. If you weren't, if you're Colombian, but you're from another place, then you're just not quite part of that club. That's not to say that people aren't friendly there. They're as friendly as they are in most places in Colombia. But there's that little cliquish thing that when I lived there, you kind of get a sense of it. And I simply missed Armenia because of how easy it is to get drawn into things. And being an introvert and being a kind of person that could just live my life completely alone for years on end without seeing anybody, that's not healthy. And being in the atmosphere of Armenia, I think it helps keep me on even keel because people will draw me out. In a Manizales, I could end up, you know, trapped in my apartment by me and never get out. And I know that's not a good, healthy thing. So, you know, we need people even if we don't want people. So there's that. Okay, those are the negative things. But let me show you about a 3-minute clip. Sherry, thank you. That almost got by me. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to show you this little clip here.
I miss you. Where are you hiding? Miss you. I miss you. Where are you hiding? Miss you. Life's a foolish game. Do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change. Turn the ship another way. Feel it in the darkness. We're sailing right into those jagged cliffs. Yeah. Some say we've always been insane. Hey, life's a foolish game.
Here's your story, let's begin. The water's fine, come on, dive in. The future's here, it's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. Welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you. The door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today. Learn the part and join the play. The world is here. Let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Okay. Whoops. Yeah, I'm always pushing the wrong buttons. That's just a slice. Now, the Chipre Park, that's on the western end of 23. 23 runs on the top ridge of the highest mountain of Manizales. The city is basically on 7 mountain peaks and down the slope of the mountains. So you got the big one in the middle, and then you got the lower ones that surround it. And it's about 500, 600,000 people. It's about the size of Pereira. But it doesn't feel like it because of the way that it's broken up. And 23 is the area of Manizales that I love. And Manizales is my favorite city, maybe in the world. You know, I think about this a lot. And there's, as far as a city goes, there's so much that I love about Manizales. And if you could alter the weather pattern a little bit, and if you could get people to be like they are in Armenia for my mental health, I would live in Manizales. And I think for most people, you would be amazed about what a fantastic place it is. And when I say favorite city, I don't mean favorite city just in Colombia. I think it's maybe my favorite city in the world. And going back, just, you know, of course, it just reminds you of things that you kind of take for granted. And I've been back, you know, a number of times since I was living there, but it just always hits me about all the things that exist in Manizales that don't exist in most other places. It's unique unto itself. If you like the restaurant scene, that Milan, the Barrio Milan, where I sped up, I think 4 times to just kind of, you know, walk through there. I would say that's probably the nicest area of the city, although there's a lot of nice areas. That's on the far eastern end of the ridge. So 23 runs along the spine of that. You got Chipre Park on one end, and then you got all that beautiful mountain scenery and a drop off. And then you've got Milan on the other end, with which you didn't see, but you've got all that mountain scenery and a volcano in the background and a steep drop off. So you're on this long ridge on the peak of this mountain. And Milan is just, it's stunning. You walk through there, the sidewalks are beautiful. It's kept up. There's flowers everywhere. And international restaurant after international restaurant. I don't mean restaurants like these little hole in the wall tienda style restaurants. I mean, walk in, sit down in this gorgeous place with this amazing backdrop with all the picture windows. Some of them go out on patios where you can kind of sit out and and look at this amazing view that they have. It's well, just in this short section, I took somebody he wanted to see Manizales. So just in this short section, we had authentic French, Japanese, Middle Eastern, Mexican, I'm forgetting a couple, but that was all within about a 2-block area. Pre-COVID, there was about 200 restaurants in this area of Milan. So if you're a foodie, you like nice restaurants, I mean, where else to live? And there's beautiful places to live there. There's a couple neighborhoods that are a little more traditional, but they're, I would say, modern traditional. They're fairly modern houses, but they're more blue collar. They're just neighborhoods, and they'll have little bars where you kind of go in and it reminds you of the TV show Cheers. Somebody will walk in and everyone, hey, how you doing? It's, because they're all Manizales, they're all part of that clique. But it's really cool to see. It's cool to watch. There's Karuja supermarket, which we don't have in Armenia, which is an awesome supermarket. It reminds me a lot of, if you know Wegmans in the United States. It reminds me a lot of that. Really well done, where they pick over and only put the best fruit out. And I mean, you never have to, you could go in and pick fruit blindfolded and you're always going to get good fruit. It's that kind of place. There's cafes and coffee shops every 10 foot. I mean, it's a real thing there. Now, when you saw the cable area, it's not cable, it's cable. It's pronounced cable. And there's a mall there, but there are 7 malls in Manizales. The newest one, which opened when I was living there, so 4 years ago, it's huge. Now, I don't know, I've never been to the Mall of America, so I guess that's one of the biggest in the world. But this one mall, the newest one, it's just gigantic. It goes, I was there when it opened, before they even had the stores filled. And it wasn't even close to filled. It was mostly empty. And you just walk forever. And there's like 4 stories to it. It just goes and goes and goes. It was amazing how huge it was. Most of their malls are really quite big. Here in Armenia, we've got 3 malls. 2 are pretty good size. And the one that I live next door is actually a pretty small mall. But, for me, it's like I'm not a mall rat, and they've got, I don't know, they've probably got 50 different kinds of stores there. So, I mean, what more do you need? But it is pretty amazing. And for people who want everything at their doorstep, you're going to find that in a place like Manizales. We're always looking for a house with a yard for our 2 dogs. Seems difficult to find. Well, they exist. They exist here. I live in one. It seems like most people that live in this little housing area that I'm in, they've got dogs. Now, I don't have a yard in the front. I have this little garden area, but they have these large green spaces that are kind of community. So think of it as having maybe 2 or 3 green space parks, in your, housing area, and the swimming pool and things like that. And that's not uncommon here in Armenia, and you can also find that in Manizales. The thing about Manizales, for me, for my taste, I don't like hiking hills, because all that does discourage me from going and doing things as often as I would otherwise. And the downside of Manizales is, unless you're up on 23, most everything else is like that. And some of the steep hills are insanely steep. You can put your car in park and the weight of the car will drag it down. People will go out and put wood chalk or wheel chocks on their cars so it doesn't go down the hill, and you have to turn the wheel so it goes into the curb. And I mean, it's really steep. So hiking up and down those things, you're not going to do it unless you really need to. Whereas if you're in a relatively level place, you don't even give it a thought. You just go out the door and do what you're going to do. But on the thing in Manizales is that 23 that goes from the east end to the west end, with about 4 or 5 miles in between, is all relatively level. I mean, you get a little slope up here and there, but walking it's no big deal. You don't really notice that, and you can go out and walk 8-10 miles and by remaining on this. You just go down one way and come back the other way, and it's all the walking you can need, and it's very interesting. You can't really get tired of it, because a lot of things that you're going to look at will be people. I will say a nice thing about Manizales is everybody always seems to be outdoors and walking around. There's just a lot of people out, and it just seems like it's always like that. It was always like that when I lived there, and I went back, and I was gratified to see it's still like that. So living in Manizales for me means living on that spine, that 23. And along there, you're going to find all these high rises. You're going to find some housing areas. Let's say, people say gated community. It's not like, I bristle against that term, because it's not like what you imagine. But you're going to find those, but they're not going to be on 23. I can't even think of any that are on 23. But so they might be a block down. Well, that block down could be pretty steep depending on where it is. So for me, it's just an obstacle where I might go. Well, when I lived there, I was out pretty much every day, getting rained on. Out pretty much every day. And if I had to climb, a block or two really steep, then I'd maybe only go out a couple times a week. It's just such a pain in the butt. So I think living there, you have to take that into consideration. But you can live there and never have to hike up and down a hill. So that's pretty cool. Plus, if there's other places in the city that you want to go, I mean, just jump in a taxi. But there's beautiful high rises all along there. There's access to a bunch of different malls. There's crazy good restaurants. I mean, really high quality, not overpriced, reasonably priced. It's just it reminds me not of Colombia, but it reminds me of when I spent a lot of time in Europe. There's just something about the flavor of it. And there is a pretty good sized international community. Now, that international community are not American expats. They're few and far between. It's international community as in professors for the university, There's a pretty good international community that goes to the universities there. Now, people will say it's a university city, unlike Armenia. Well, that's not true. I think we actually have the same number of universities as them. And one of the most famous in all of Colombia is located in Armenia, University Candillo. However, there's an international crowd that is drawn to Manizales. And so you'll find students from Spain, from France. You don't really see that in Armenia. So that's the difference. So it's not that there's more college students in Manizales, but it's that there are more international students in Manizales. So what do we got here? Love Coruja. That place is awesome. I have one 5 blocks from my apartment in Barranquilla. Love Wegmans even more. Yeah. I lived between Eastern Pennsylvania and Central Virginia for almost 30 years. Yeah, I kind of grew up in and around Canandaigua, which is where the Wegman family was. I used to water ski by their mansion. The first Ferrari I ever saw belonged to his son, the guy who founded the place. And what an amazing story that supermarket chain has. And when I go into Coruja in Manizales, I don't know how the rest of them are. I've never been in another one. It's a chain throughout Colombia. So I haven't been in another one. But when I go into the one in Manizales, it just reminds me of that because they put so much effort into displays, for example. And they're displays like, I don't know, like they'll bring in this awesome looking wooden cart and they'll fill it with things. And I mean, they put a lot of effort into the display of the food and the care that they take to only present really good food. And that's something that Wegmans is really big on. I mean, you go into a Wegmans and you can search all day to find an apple with a bruise on it. You know, everything is like perfection. And Coruja reminds me of that. Plus, they have all the things like if you want to go get a Angus ribeye steak, well, it's going to be there. You know, they got Colombian beef, Argentine beef. They've got USDA beef. You know, so you're going to find a broader selection than your typical place. Of course, it's in a wealthier part of Manizales. Rents very similar to here in Armenia. Things will cost a little bit more, and it has a lot to do with just the logistics. Like taxis cost more, but taxis are running up and down these steep hills. There's a lot of wear and tear on the taxis, and so their minimum charge is higher, and their click rate is a little higher. They're still cheap, but you know, when you're replacing your brakes every other month instead of, you know, every other year, things are going to cost more. And that, you know, that applies to a lot of things about the taxi. And so that's just the taxi. So there's other things. I mean, shipping, gasoline, everything's a little bit more. I don't mean a ton more, but a gallon of gas might be 200 pesos or 300 pesos more than if you were in Armenia, for example. So all of those things kind of eke up a little bit. But is housing in Armenia more expensive than Manizales? No. It's very similar. And it has more to do with where you are. I mean, what's expensive? You can't really... It's difficult to pin a price because I can find... in the north, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I just saw one the other day. It was $900,000. It wasn't the best of it. You know, it wasn't like right on the most sought after area, but it's a decent area. It's a safe area, and it was a nice apartment. Or you can do like my friend who got a 2-story penthouse that, marble trim, and you walk in and it's like, oh my God, some millionaire lives here and he's paying $700 a month for it. Of course, he had to furnish it. So you're gonna have a range of things. But if you choose a high rise in a prime location, the price here is going to be very similar to what the price would be in Manizales. Now, I've seen, looking at real estate fairly often, I'll see bargains in Manizales that maybe I don't see here. And then 6 months later, it might be the other way around. They're relatively close in pricing. If the biggest difference in pricing is the little effect that shipping up to it, there's a bit of a premium for that. So, my wife wants your friend's 700 a month pad. I love that place. I went in and I did a video on it when he first got there, and it was pretty empty, I think. And I went back last week, and he didn't want me to film, and it's all done up now. And when I say done up, it looks like somebody professional came in with an unlimited budget. I hesitate to even ask, but I know things can, it's not like the US, but he's got these massive, like 4-foot tall Botero paintings. And if you know those statues that you see in parks, like in Bucaramanga, Medellin, where they're like these fat people. Well, he's got the paintings from that guy. And there's like 4 or 5 in his living room. They're huge, but it fits in his living room because his living room is so massive. He's got these custom-made tables and furniture. I mean, the place is just stunning. And I go in there and it ruins me. It ruins me. It's like, I want to live there, but I don't have enough money to live there. To live in a place like that, you really need to be pulling in, a couple thousand a month. If you have a couple thousand a month, you can live like that. I don't. I'm somewhere around 1,400 a month. And so I'm considered to be upper middle class, and I can live in a nice high rise or something. I just can't live in a 2-story penthouse with marble trim. I found the rest was slightly higher in Manizales versus Armenia. Yeah, it tends to go that way, but you'll find it's close enough to where you can find what you want to find in the price range that you're probably within reason you're probably looking for. Sometimes it takes a little patience. Sometimes you need to get out and walk the neighborhoods, which reminds me, I'm asked quite a bit about, how do you find a good apartment? Do you look on the internet? I look on the internet, I see what's out there. It's habit, we're used to doing that. But chances are I probably won't ever rent off of the internet. The price is always going to be higher. Very often it's represented by agents, which is problematic in and of itself. But it gives me an idea of what's going on. The best way is to know the neighborhood or neighborhoods that you want to live in and get out and walk and look for the signs in the windows. If it's a high rise, go in, ask the guard or the porter, whatever they want to call him, ask him if there's any places that are open. Now, again, I've told you before, these are not apartment buildings, they're condos individually owned. But if a person owns a condo, but he's not living there, maybe he's working in Bogota or something, and it comes open, the guard's going to know about it. And so that's your best way of, finding a place. And if you deal with the owner, everything's negotiable here and in Manizales for the most part. You don't have to pay deposits. You might have to put down like a cleaning fee, 100, 200,000 pesos or something, but you don't have to put a month's rent or 2 months, or like in Medellin, they want 6 months. You don't have to do that at all. If you go through an agent, you might run into that. You just have to say no. I won't perpetuate that. I did run into an owner in my first place. He wanted 6 months, and I declined, and he got back to me, and they changed it to 3 months. And I declined, and he got back to me, and he wanted 1 month, and I went for that because the place wasn't all that expensive anyway, and the location was pretty tremendous. Plus, I got him to knock off $150,000 on the monthly rent. I ended up staying there for 2 years. So, real estate, you got to negotiate. You have to know what you're talking about, and you have to put some effort into it. You have to get out and walk, or know somebody who go do that for you. And I know Alejandra and I work together on these things, and now she's pretty good at, even though she didn't know Armenia before, she's learned Armenia because she's from Bogota. And, you know, she'll get out and you know, walk the beat for people. So people actually hire her to go try to locate something in certain areas. And, you know, that's been pretty successful. I've been living in Cali for donkey's years, and think about living somewhere different. The heat in Cali, oh yeah. The heat, the crowds, the unwashed crowds, the stench. A lot of Cali just stinks. It's because they indiscriminately throw trash out in the street, and there's just a lot of things. You know, I think half the people don't shower there. Okay, I might be exaggerating. I'm just not a Cali fan. I've been there dozens and dozens, probably at least 24 times. And I don't mean passing through. I mean, I've been there to get out and walk around, and it's disgusting. I don't like it. Too hot. It's sucio. It's yeah, not a fan of Cali. What the heck? What the heck? Who's browbeating me with messages? Okay, somebody who's on this video. I gotta do the video. Message me afterwards. Okay. All right, let's do I have anything else to say about Manizales? Well, in summary, I think Manizales is maybe the best city I know. I love it. I get excited when I get back there. I miss a lot of the things that it has. It's very cool. I told you the couple reasons why I'm just not living there, but because those other reasons are very important to me. But in a heartbeat, I would live there. And I think, I honestly believe that for most people, it would be a better place to be, particularly if you've got like a married couple. Or they don't have to be married, but if there's a pair of you, where you've got your own built-in company, I think that's a perfect situation, because over time you're going to meet people, you're going to make friends. I mean, it's not like that's not going to happen, and you've got each other in the meantime. So I think that would be like maybe the ideal situation. And then you just have to make sure that wherever you go, you take an umbrella. I don't care if it's 80 degrees and bright sunshine, take an umbrella. That's just how it is. Okay. All right, let's do this. It's Q&A time. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember question. All right, let's hit it up. While I'm waiting for some questions, don't forget we got the travel insurance thing. If you're moving here, you need a couple months of travel insurance. These guys are awesome. Price is good. And I believe you get some discount if you click on the link. You get some discount by clicking on the link that I've got. And there's the website, grandcolumbia.live. Anything that you're ever looking for, if you're not sure where it is, you will always find it there, including videos. And there's my email. So let's see. Okay, that's the end of that. Now, let's see what we got for questions. Of course, that had to quit working. All right, I'm going to take a moment here. Bear with me for a moment. I want to restart something. The little script that I have that I can post the comments. By the time I get a half an hour into it, it just kind of quits working. Not always, but pretty common. Okay, here we go. Manizales, a lot cooler. Now, see, I addressed that. Go back and watch the beginning of this video, and that is not true. Andromeda Surfer, hi there. Ha, Manizales. Let's see. Thank you. I'm so tired of the heat in Cali. I have an apartment in Cali and a dog. Oh, if you mean a lot cooler than Cali, yeah, well, pretty much everywhere is cooler than Cali, and cooler in every sense of the word. I mean, Manizales is way cool compared to Cali. Plus, the temperature's cooler. Does one need a guide for the first days in Armenia? I would suggest it. It's not because I charge people to do it. It's not because of that. I actually limit it no more than 3 days, and after that, I can refer you to somebody local. The 3 days are because I've got an expat's point of view, which local guides don't have, and so there's things that I can clue you in on that doesn't even occur to them. I suggest it because the people that I do this with, when they're moving here to settle in, they're pretty much set up to go in a month and a half. They got their visa, their cedula, they're living in a place, they've got their furnishings, they're set up. And the people who don't kind of struggle, make some mistakes, spend a little extra money because they weren't sure, the best way to do something. And in 3 or 4 months, they're still working on getting settled in. And those things can be frustrating. So the whole point of me is to try to save you some money, but save you a ton of time and frustration. So that's really the point. I actually didn't do it for a long time. I didn't want to do it, but I kept getting asked, and finally I decided to do it. And it was a good way to subsidize things that, like we're doing. So I'm going to say yes. However, I will also say this, that if you're going to any place that you don't know, it's worth finding somebody who's reasonable to take you around. This sounds kind of funny because I spent my life, traveled 30 different countries. I've lived in more than 3 years each. I always enjoyed, particularly when I was in my 20s, I enjoyed just kind of getting out, getting lost. However, a lot of times in our life we have more time constraints than that. And that was back when I was kind of impervious. I had no fear. I didn't care if I got mugged, I felt sorry for the mugger. I might be an old fat man now, but I could really handle myself when I was younger. And so it was a very different situation. For most things, I believe now, like if I'm going to, let's say I go to Barranquilla for the first time. I've never been to Barranquilla. I would probably want to hook up with somebody or take somebody that knows something about it. So I know the places to go and I can kind of just economize my time, not waste money, really kind of focus on the things that would be more important. And so I think it's a very useful thing to do. Manizales cooler versus Scala. Yeah. Sorry about that. I caught on. Yeah, that's what I meant. Manizales is my favorite. Yeah, it's mine too, with those exceptions, which caused me to live here. I imagine you're tired of Petro question. But here we go anyway. What are you hearing about Petro? He's raising taxes and other stuff. Just wanted to hear from you on this. I haven't really heard a lot. There's only one thing it was kind of a shock to me. It was kind of a concern. He's done something that some people will say is tradition, but he's taken the head of the national police and the military, and he has appointed people that he wants in those positions. That really kind of concerns me. I hate to see those things politicized. In the past, people will argue and say that it's not true, but in the past, it's generally they have those positions by merit. But also in the past, we haven't had socialist or socialist leaning presidents, so for them to achieve by merit, made sense. So I'm not comfortable with that move. As far as everything else goes, I don't know. There's some politics at play. He's out blowing his horn saying the dollar has fallen like 150 pesos since he took office, and it's like, first of all, that's a piddling amount, and they're ignoring the fact that it shot up like 800 pesos. It did fall back. We got up to 4,600, and now it's around 40, 41, 42, and it's been hovering in that area. So, trying to take credit for something when you're still way off from the 3,800 that it ran at for a long time is kind of silly. But then I see that in the U.S. too. I mean, after all, you're not having an inflation. You're living in the best economy ever. Sorry. Emil, how you doing? What's up with all the noise music this morning at 4 a.m. next to your place? You must be throwing block parties again. Yeah, see, you're up where you catch all the noise. I actually didn't hear anything. But yeah, that's going to happen. I think Monday's a holiday, so this is a holiday weekend. I swear it seems like every weekend's a holiday, but Monday is some sort of holiday. I don't remember what. And so to have a weekend party, it doesn't surprise me. 4 a.m, I don't know. Didn't hear it. And I'm a very light sleeper. May have seemed like it came from next to me, but I'm nestled down here in these trees and it kind of blocks off. I don't really hear much of anything here. I just want to say hello from Alaska. Mark, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Alaska, God's country. All right. Yeah, what would we do without all those Gold Rush TV shows in Alaska? Well, actually, I think most of them are in Canada, but you got some in Alaska. You know what I'm saying. All right, any other questions? Anything else on Manizales? In our research, contemplating moving there, we hear a lot about Cerritos. You never speak of this place. Any reason? Because I don't know anything about it. There's a lot of places that, it's like Salamina. Dying to go there. The people that founded, the story about the people that founded Manizales is amazing. What they had to go through, a couple dozen people with their oxen, and maybe you noticed in the statues at that little video clip, wives, babies, families. There was a couple dozen people that scaled cliffs. I mean, they're hauling oxen up. It was an unbelievable task to get up and found Manizales. The story, it's like, it doesn't even seem like it was humanly possible. It's just that kind of story. So Salamina is where they left from. And so the place intrigues me. So it's on my list. One day I'll get there. I've actually been getting out and around. quite a bit lately. My email, I got it up on the screen. LL, send me an email with your WhatsApp number again. When you get back, we got to hook up. We never do, and we got to hook up. Have you felt any earth tremors lately? No. I'm on the ground floor. Well, I'm a 2-story house, but I haven't felt any. On the other hand, it's pretty common to feel tremors. It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, there's earthquakes pretty much everywhere, wherever you are. If you look on the earthquake map, the US Geological Survey.com or something like that. I don't think there's a place anywhere that doesn't have earthquakes. And I was telling somebody this the other day. When I first started looking into this, when I got ravaged in Ecuador in that massive one, I thought my building was going to crumble, and it was full of cracks. And another time, I get on the site and I start looking at things about earthquakes. And what really blew me away was I've got kind of a distant relative that's from Oklahoma. And I never heard anything about earthquakes, for example, in Oklahoma. And so I'm looking on this map. They get about 200 earthquakes a day in Oklahoma. A day. Now, primarily, these are very low grade, 2-point something or whatever. But that kind of woke me up to realize that there's earthquakes all over. I was in Buffalo, New York once, and there was an earthquake. Didn't really do any damage, but you could really feel it. I mean, it was really unnerving. And then, of course, California. When I was living in California, that was my first experience with an earthquake. I thought I was going to throw up. It was felt very nauseous. Everything's kind of blurry and very strange. Didn't know it was an earthquake. So, feeling them around here, it's no big deal. I will mention, I've talked about the earthquake that happened here in Armenia, and as dramatic and drastic as it seems, I did a video on it where it really wasn't. Everything that was so bad about it wasn't because of the earthquake. It was because of the construction of how things used to be. Manizales has a history of a lot of things happening, like in the city was in 1924, 25, and 26 had these massive fires that just devastated the city. And in 1925 or 26, they contracted with somebody to come and show them how to build a fire department, how to make it work. It hadn't been an issue since, but it was, they were pretty devastating. Think, what was it, San Francisco? Chicago. The Chicago fires. It was kind of like that. Just kind of devastated the city, and they'd have to rebuild. And it happened 3 years in a row. Earthquakes, yeah, somewhat, not so much. I think they had one that had some real consequence, but again, they had more to do with building construction. They've got the volcano there, but the thing with the volcano is it's far enough away they will never have lava flow issues, but you can get, hot ash and things to kind of rain down on you. And that can be pretty bad on the lungs, and, it can be good. But you can get that. They say that we can even get it as far from the volcano into Salento and other areas in Quindío. Of course, it probably, I imagine it's more looks like snowfall, but they say, if it happens, put a mask on for a day or whatever. I know many tales from the big ones in 1999. Yeah, and I would tell you that if you're curious about the earthquake, watch my video, but go to the horse's mouth. The London Geological Society, I may not have that name right. They did a report. They came here, and it was over a year, they spent doing a study on that earthquake. I read that report from cover to cover. It's filled with diagrams, and there's photos and lots of descriptions, lots of specific stories about this happened here and this happened there. It's a fascinating report if you can get yourself to wade through it. And that was a basis for my video. It was very enlightening. The earthquake did virtually nothing except these houses that were of horrendous construction like they have in Ecuador. They just crumbled, and anybody inside got crushed. And that's why that earthquake was so bad. There wasn't a single high-rise that suffered any kind of structural damage. Okay. What districts of Manizales do you recommend for foreigners to live in? Well, the Milan is the best, but anywhere along 23 is awesome. The Alto Suiza, that's a traditional neighborhood. It's very safe, but it's a very cool place. So if you want to live relatively inexpensive, you will have a bit of a hike up to 23, but it's not horrible. I stayed there for a while, but I love that neighborhood. I would definitely recommend that if you kind of want to be off the beaten path. But if you want to live a modern lifestyle with all the conveniences at your fingertips, and you don't want to hike up and down a lot of hills, then along 23, the Cable area in the east, the Milan area, halfway across the city is where I lived, near the Catholic University. That's a great area to live. Those are the areas I'd recommend. Everything else in Manizales is like typical Colombian. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's not my thing. We'll be there for Christmas and New Year's. Awesome. We'll take you out to dinner at La Fogata. Don't think I could turn that down. Love that place. I think in the last 3 years, I've been there twice. Love it. If I were a rich man, I'd probably eat there every week. And the funny thing is, when I went there the first time, it was when I still had all those consulting clients, and I was pulling in about $4,000 a month. I was in Ecuador, and I came across to see Colombia because I hadn't been here in a long time. And I went to La Fogata, and I hadn't eaten in 2 days, and I was really hungry. So I went there and I ordered an appetizer. I ordered a cold beer. I ordered a glass of wine with dinner. I had the entree, and I had a dessert. So it was everything. And the price back then was somewhere around 105,000 pesos. Now, I thought that was peanuts because I was still living on a different monetary value. And everything changed. I live on a lot less money, and I went through hard times for a few months, and that really kind of resets your view of things about what can happen. And now, if I were to spend 105,000 on a dinner, I would probably go out back and shoot myself. It's like, it's like I have trouble, going to 40,000. It's like I cringe. So when I say it's expensive, it's expensive in that you can have your appetizer and a couple drinks, glass of wine, your entree and dessert for $30. Pretty outrageous for me, but putting it in perspective, you're going to look at that and say, well, if I were in the US, I'd be paying $150 for that, if not more. And it is a really nice place. Okay, what districts, foreigners, mentioned that in neighborhoods. A neighborhood in the north of Armenia is good to stay. as any. Yeah, my favorite is where I live, the Centenario. Actually, you can go from where I live, or just south of where I live on Centenario, or Carrera Seis. You got Kalima Mall, and go north from there, and all the way up north through Armenia. There's a lot of really nice places to live there, and a lot of good restaurants. It's a really good area. And Castellania area, that's kind of a ritzy. That's where my guy's 2-story penthouse is. But there's some really nice apartments there for $300, $400, $500. The area around Portal Condillo, there's some really nice things there. And I would say on the, what is it, the east side? Yeah, the east side of Parque Fundadores. There's a couple of high rises, but there's some older buildings that are really nice. And the nicest things about some of those older buildings is they're older in a sense of they're really big rooms and really nice ornate wood trim, doors, things like that. It's kind of a ritzy feel, and it's pretty inexpensive to live there. Plus, fantastic location. So those are my favorite areas in Armenia. Had a great meal in a restaurant specialized in potato recipes in Manizales. I forgot the name. You know, back when I cook, and I was trained by a chef, and I did some restaurant work in my life, and you know, we all have these fanciful dreams, and I had this idea I had 2 restaurant ideas that I thought were awesome. I loved onion rings. I made killer onion rings, and I thought a restaurant named Onion Ring would be awesome. Okay, well, that was, you know, I was 17 at the time. So, but then I had this idea to make a restaurant surrounding the potato, because the potato is just something amazing, and there is so much you can do with a potato. I mean, it's a perfect canvas to put other things, you know, to create other things. And so I had this dream of opening a restaurant showcasing the millions of things that you could do with a potato. Okay, it was a dream. It wasn't anything I was ever going to act on, and I knew that, but it's something that occasionally I would fantasize about. Do people in Armenia eat a lot of beef in the States? Not so much. A lot of people don't like beef. A lot of people love beef. Some of their main dishes are with beef. But the number one protein is pork. No, I'm sorry, chicken. And number 2 is pork. Something else. And beef is number 4, I believe. That may be old information, but it's roughly around there. Hello from Miami. Are there any new homes being built in the north of Armenia? There has always been, and there still is, endless, constant construction. It's just always happening. There's always construction. I'm still here, yes. I have problems with street dogs. They attacked my dog badly 2 times. They had kind of cleaned that up for a while, but you know, I've heard that it's back, and they can't keep it clean because it's the mentality there. When you live in Ecuador for a while and then you come to Colombia, one of the things you notice right away is that you can walk down a sidewalk and there's no dog poop. In Ecuador, that's just kind of a normal thing. You have to constantly dodge piles of poop on the street. The other thing is, and there's exceptions, but for the most part, if you see a dog in Armenia, it's going to be on a leash. Or in Colombia, except out in the country, you know, it's different. But in the cities, you're pretty much going to see dogs on leashes. And in Ecuador, except for expats, you almost never saw dogs on leashes. In Ecuador, what you would find is people would get dogs when they're puppies. They're so cute. Then as they grow up and they start eating them out of house and home, they just kick them out in the street. And so you get all these endless supplies of street dogs. And these street dogs will gather and go in packs. I've done videos on them. I've shown them. And for the most part, they're relatively well-mannered, but they still get into trash and strew it everywhere. And often enough, they will attack people. You know, if you get a pack of dogs at 10, 20, 30, biggest pack I found was outside of my building. And it was over 40. I mean, it's really difficult to count, but it was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep because they're out there barking. And one night they were, and this was happening over and over again, it caused me to move. They were relatively still. And so I started counting, and I got up to 40, but it was unsure. Did I count that one? Did I count that one? And I was, oh, there's no way. I'm telling you, there's a way. I even at one time had a picture, but it was at night. There were street lights, but it was really hard to discern. But I'm not going to make this stuff up. Why would I make it up? That was just real. And then I ended up moving out of Cuenca into Giron, thinking that would go away. But then there's street dogs there too. There's just a lack of care for animals like that. They'll talk a good game. They talk about how much they love animals, but then they'll put them out in the street. And here they treat animals like their family. I mean, here it kind of gags me. You'll see, these little dogs with clothing and things like that. There's lots of vet places here thriving because people love their animals, and they take care of them. They give them their shots. And so we don't really have street dogs. Occasionally, I had somebody send me a message in WhatsApp and with a photo, and he showed me a dog that wasn't on a leash. So, see, they got street dogs. What's the story on that dog? Maybe that's a dog. If you look over to your right, you see a little tienda, and that's the owner's dog, and they don't keep him on a leash all day long. And he mostly lays around in tienda, but every once in a while he'll get out and walk around. You're going to get things like that occasionally, but there's no street dogs. There's certainly no packs of dogs. And you don't get this kind of attacking. Bet you know a brunch restaurant in Salento. The owner is from Oregon. No. Maybe if I saw it. I've probably been to half a dozen restaurants over time there, but I have my favorites, and I tend to just go back to my favorite places. Gringo owner, you don't necessarily know, because very often they'll be back. Most of the gringos that live in this area actually live around Salento, not Armenia. Although I've been seeing enough people over the last few years bailing out of the U.S. and showing up here in Armenia, expats on leashes. Yeah, well, there's that too. I avoid like the plague the expats in Cuenca. They all seem to be, I don't know, they all seem to be from San Francisco or something, just kind of loopy. They had these weird world views. Here, I don't know, the people that have been coming here for the most part just kind of seem down to earth. But anyway, I'm rambling. What time is it? All right, last call for questions, and then we're going to wrap it up for the day. I'm almost done with my juice. Last call. There's a little time delay, so I want to give you enough time to get it typed. Okay, while I'm waiting, please remember, Project Expat. Please email me. Email's up on the screen. A 1-page or 2 big paragraphs about your experience. Why did you move to Ecuador or Colombia? Where are you? In general terms, don't send me your address, but what city are you in? And what conclusion do you draw? Was it a mistake? You could say how long you've been, and was it the best thing you've ever done in your life? Was it somewhere in between? Is there anything in particular, any kind of experience that, maybe you got one little story that you want to share? I would really appreciate it. I'm going to take these and start doing a series where I read these. That's why I don't really want it more than 1 page. I don't want it to be some long, drawn-out, cumbersome thing. Something, short and to the point. All right. I got no other questions, so we are going to wrap it up here. I want to thank you for the contributions today. I want to thank you for all the contributions in the comment. I've had some of you guys have been with me going on 6 years now, and I know it's corny, but it keeps me going. I'm one of those people. I couldn't live just being retired, and I really love doing this. And when it got tough, and it was a few years back, I thought I wasn't even going to be able to continue this. You guys kind of rallied for me and sent me enough to replace that missing camera and the computer problems I've had. And it's you guys that have really created the studio that I have so that I can consistently keep doing this, and I really enjoy doing it. Of course, I hate editing videos, and that's why you see few and far between of those, but the live, I can constantly do those. All right, so that's it. Thank you, and I'll see you next Sunday.
Wow.